Hey, what's up guys, Pete here, and today's news are more interconnected than the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so pay close attention. The question for today is, what cell phone do you have and what is the most demanding game you have ever tried on it? First of all, we talk about the Snapdragon 480. As you well know, Snapdragon is the name of the processors for mobile devices created by the Qualcomm company, and although they are not the only ones on the market, we also have Exynos and Kirin. At least for emulation purposes, they are currently the best. These Snapdragon processors are divided by series that relate to a smartphone's capabilities. For example, the 800 series refers to the high-end, such as a Snapdragon 865 that you find on last year's flagships. At the other end of the spectrum, you find 400 series like the Snapdragon 460 being rocked on many budget phones from 2020. Every year that passes, the new processors show an improvement of around 20 to at most 25% when compared to previous models. Well, all this pretty much went to hell, since the successor of the 460, the recently announced Snapdragon 480, will provide us with an alleged 100% higher performance than the previous generation. Basically, we are saying that this year's low-end phones bring double the performance on both CPU and GPU departments, and this is not even the worst or best for us users. When we talk about processors, we usually tend to compare them to the CPUs found on desktop computers or laptops, and in reality, when it comes to mobile devices, we should refer to them as SOCs, systems on chip or chipsets. SoC refers to a chip that acts as the basis for integrating all or most of the components on a computer. Now, why am I telling you this? Because it is precisely the chipset which makes specs such as a Full HD screen or 5G, higher RAM or a better GPU available or not. Traditionally, the 400 series did not have access to the best representatives from these characteristics. For example, and most interesting for us, the Snapdragon 730, a mid-range with considerable performance, was coupled with an Adreno 618 GPU. Meanwhile, the Snapdragon 480, the next low-end processor of 2021, brings us an Adreno 619 GPU, the same that can be found on a Snapdragon 750. So a low-end brings a more powerful and more efficient GPU. To make it clearer, the next low-end with the Snapdragon 480 will have much better performance than the Redmi Note 9s, on which we recently tested a couple of Switch games, and if we are to follow that video's findings, taking into account the improvements and optimization in software not only of games but also of emus, it is quite likely that some Nintendo Switch games could be enjoyable on a low-end mobile device. As of today, we have two Switch emus in the race for stability, performance, and even playability. First we have EggNS, a shady software that requires a specific $70 controller known as the GameCube X2 to be used. This one features great performance when you take into consideration it was released less than 6 months ago, and some games are already very playable at a stable speed on high-end devices. But we also have Skyline, another proposal that rather than being an emulator, aims to be a compatibility layer with Switch games for Android. To make it clearer, you will run Switch games with the highest power found on Android devices. It should be remembered that this emu is a project in development that has recently taken giant steps. For example, it is already booting up commercial games such as Sonic Mania and Mario Odyssey. In some cases the audio works very good, but graphics rendering is still not implemented. In any case, this is a serious project. This, together with the ability to enjoy it with any controller you want, and even with on-screen controls, makes it the winner of this battle in my opinion. As a conclusion of this first part, thanks to the great power in the newest processors and the continuous progress of the emus, we can hope that at least 2D Switch games will be enjoyable in the future via Skyline on low-end mobile devices. Speaking of the other emulator, EggNS has just been updated to its 1.0.6 version. On even more important news, the Xiaomi Mi 11, the first cell phone to display the Snapdragon 888, was released. It broke records selling around 350,000 units in just 5 minutes, and it also broke our hearts when we found out that unfortunately, although it does show some improvement in benchmarks, it does so together with an increase in battery consumption, something that is completely contrary to the promises of greater efficiency made by Qualcomm. However, we must bear in mind that these apps are not optimized for this new processor. It brings different drivers, among other things. Although if I'm honest, this is unacceptable, we don't know if it is due to problems with the Xiaomi customization layer or a problem with the processor itself. But what we do know is that the performance of the Mi 11 leaves much to be desired. Having heard this, I present to you the first EggNS Switch gameplay on a Snapdragon 888, courtesy of Techutopia. Here we can see something quite curious. According to Mohamed, the performance is not better than that of the Snapdragon 865, showing a performance equal to or worse than that found in last year's flagship processor. However, we share the same opinion. This might just be due to what I mentioned before. We had to wait for more optimization by the emulator, we had to wait for the release of more devices with the chipset to be able to make a proper comparison. We have great news from Dolphin MMJR. For those of you who are not aware, we are talking about Dolphin, a software that allows you to enjoy GameCube and Wii games on your Android cell phone. MMJR is a modified version of this software, in which multiple improvements were added to enhance performance on all cell phones. Well, this modified app got updated to version 11.457, adding as always stability improvements for some games. But the most interesting thing is what we find in the notes of Bankai Master, the developer in charge of this application. It seems that this will be the last update of MMJR for now, as they are focusing on the next level of the Wii and GameCube experience for Android. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, because as you all know, the official Dolphin team has been incorporating significant improvements in the official application found on the Play Store. They revamped the user interface, adding multiple new features and considerably optimizing the app, to the extent that many people experience better performance with the official version than with the modified versions. It seems that the official Dolphin development team has already overcome the effect of the performance hacks that we have incorporated into the original version of Dolphin MMJ, the first modified version of Dolphin that stopped getting updates a few years ago and where the inspiration for the Bankai Master's MMJR came from. But what would happen if they added the performance improvement of the modified versions to this new optimized official version? This is precisely what the MMJR team wants to do with their new project MMJ Revamp, or as I like to call it, MMJR 2.0. In addition to the adoption of the new official version as a base, MMJR 2.0 will also bring new features such as the implementation of an updater, which means that every time you open the application, a screen will receive you telling you if there is any new updates available and allowing you to update the app directly from this menu. So with MMJR 2.0, you will always have the best version possible every single time. Of course, it is still a project in development, but once it is made available, I have no doubt that once again, Bankai Master and the MMJR team will make history. The only thing we have to do to help is be patient, and in the meanwhile, enjoy the definitive version of Dolphin for Android, MMJR 11.457. If you want my recommendation on which cell phone to buy for gaming to enjoy retro consoles on Android and more, that will depend on your budget, but what I can tell you is that you should not buy for now. Hopefully this year's mid-rangers will show the same mass improvement that the low end is going to show, but I will not lose sight of the Snapdragon 480. Maybe we can even test it on the channel. Like this video if you would like to see an emulation test on a 480 device and see how it suffers against Switch emulation. If you like the video, leave me a like, subscribe and share it with your friends. But this has been all for today. I am Pete the Android and I'll see you on the next one.